as we're going through this and as I've been putting it together, I noticed a trend in here that probably needs to be addressed before we actually get started. And that trend is that you have to understand that this is a heavy book. What I mean by heavy meaning it's not a warm, fuzzy book. There are some warm fuzzies in there, but it's really not a warm, fuzzy book. These are people that are being warned and being begged, please don't do this because you're going to go to Babylon. This is going to be a big problem. And then, of course, when they weren't listening, it gets uglier and uglier to some degree. So I want us to understand that this is still speaking to us, even though it was speaking to them. There's always that part of it, but it's going to be kind of, you may feel a little beat up as we go through a couple of these, teachings on this particular book, the book of Yirmiyahu, the book of Jeremiah, because after all, that's actually what was going on. So I just want to make sure I've said that because, you may think, wow, he's really beating this thing to death here. Well, actually, I'm going from chapter to chapter, and Yirmiyahu's saying the same thing from chapter to chapter. So don't get kind of frustrated or upset with me or bored because I'm saying the same thing over and over again. Abba decided to put it in your book over and over again. And he made Yirmiyahu, his prophet, say it over and over again. So there may be a reason we need to actually hear it over and over again. So it's going to sound in some ways, in some of these parts, a little bit redundant at times, but there's a reason. And I think the reason is because the key problem here is the heart. And Yirmiyahu is trying to address that it's a heart issue that's going on. And he's appealing to people to their hearts. And he's trying to appeal into their deepest, innermost place. And so sometimes to get there needs to be a little bit of a drilling it in and drumming it in and just kind of pressing it in that needs to be done to get us to realize that it's not just these people, in this case Yehuda, that's being told this, in the southern kingdom, but it's for us. I want you to reach deep into you to say, Abba, what is there here that's me? What's going on here that's actually me? How does this apply to me? How can I apply this in my life? And so that's really key because after going through the couple of chapters we went through last week, and now we're going to go through like 2, maybe 3 chapters this week, and we're going to read pretty much the entire chapters to make sure we're getting the context. They're heavy. There's a lot going on, and the Creator is not happy. He's disappointed. I hope you can understand. There's a reason he's disappointed, and that's what I want you to receive. As we read the chapters, you'll understand why he's not happy, why he's disappointed. Because some of you had parents that were not happy with you, and you were very frustrated because you never knew why. You just knew they weren't happy. And you really felt like, I wish I knew so I could fix it, but you never knew because they wouldn't tell you. Well, Abba's going to tell you in this book. Jeremiah is going to tell the people what the Father told him to say in order to reach them, for them to understand what it is that is making the Creator unhappy. But when he says, if you find a man, if there's anyone doing right ruling, seeking the truth. Now, I'm sure there were people then, just like there are people now, that are on some levels seeking the truth and are on some levels doing right ruling. But have you put borders on that? Have you kind of hedged that in? In other words, I want the truth, but only up to this point. Or I want to do right ruling, but only up to this point. And see, I think this is what he's talking about here in verse 1. He's not looking just for anybody trying and making any effort. He's looking for those that are actually making the all your heart, all your strength, all your being effort. I mean, there's a lot of things in life that you do, and it seems like it worked, it kind of accomplished what you wanted to accomplish, but then there's all this kind of ramifications that you have to deal with because you didn't do it really the right way. You got the job done, but you didn't do it the right way. And so guess what? There's sort of a penalty and payment for when you do things. You took a shortcut or you did something, whatever. And so, sure, you got it done, but at a cost, at a price. But if you have tasted of doing it Yahweh's way, there's never anything negative. It's only good. It's only pure because it's the right way. There's a relationship that happens with disciple and teacher or discipler, where you are in relationship where you say, whatever you say, I'm going to do. Mold me. In other words, you're coming as soft clay before that teacher and saying, I'm here to mold. I'm not here to argue. I'm not here to ask questions. Well, you may ask questions for understanding, but I'm not here to question you. Well, why are we doing that? instead of saying things like, hey, wow, why do we do that? You see, there's a difference between saying, why do we do that, and saying, well, why are we doing that? It sounds just like a tone of voice thing, but the second one is like, well, that looks stupid. Why are we doing that? I mean, that seems dumb. What's the point in that? As opposed to going, wow, I don't understand this. Well, why is it that we do this? So there was a contract between the disciple and the teacher. And that contract was, the teacher said, basically, so what the contract is, the same as the covenant. The teacher said, I'm going to speak, you're going to listen. So now there are other yokes out there. There are other leaders and other people that want you to come and put on their yoke. In other words, be like me, do what I do, say what I say. That's not the right one. And guess what? That leads to all kinds of suffering. And by the way, all of us have had yokes that we've thrown off, and we realized that they cause nothing but suffering. But now, are you willing to truly put on his yoke? Because he says his yoke is light. Put on my yoke, it's light. And actually, I'm going to take that a little further. Yeshua is the light. So we're not going to say light as in light versus heavy. My yoke is light. I don't think I've ever said that before. But that's powerful right there. My yoke is light. What is the light? The truth, the Torah. My yoke is light. Listen, if this is all you want, is this life? Go. Do whatever you can. Enjoy every bit of this life, but realize that's all you're going to have. See, all of us, hopefully, well, I used the word hope in there already, but hopefully we have a hope of something beyond this life. There's a hope that there's more. And that's what we're working towards, and that's what we're striving towards, and that's what we're believing in and trusting in, and that's why we do what we do, because it's the something more that's coming, not this. But even in that, I'm not going to make a complete end of you. Why? Why isn't he going to make a complete end of them? Because he promised he wouldn't. So there needed to be a remnant to go forward so that he can fulfill the things that he promised to Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. He made a promise. Now, we break promises all the time. He'll never break a promise. Otherwise, we have nothing else to hold on to. I mean, if it's possible that he would break his word and break his promise, then what are we depending on? We've got nothing. We're wasting our time. But we know he will keep his word. And these priests, he says, and my people loved it so. Why? Because the priests were pandering to them. And so the people loved it. We love you, priests. What a wonderful priest. You say all the things we want to hear. That's how you fill a stadium and you call yourself, a minister of Yahweh, and you have this big giant stadium full of people in Texas. Mr. Olstein. Because all he does is tickle everybody's ears. Boy, if you want to feel good, listen to his show. You'll feel good. He will only tell you stuff that you can do it. He loves you. He's just going to, you know what? You can get any motivational speaker to do the same stuff. You can do it. If you want a rah-rah cheerleader, he's your guy. Is that going to help you at all in your life? Not the slightest bit. But you'll be going down the hill at the same speed you were before, but you can have a smile on your face thinking that it's all good. If you stay in me, and not just if you stay in me or think you stay in me or claim I'm Messiah. No, if you stay in me, stay in the way, stay in the life, stay in the truth, and my words stay in you. By the way, how do you know if these things are happening? He already told you. It will bear fruit. That's how you know it's happening, because there'll be fruit as evidence. So if you stay in me and you're bearing fruit, guess what? Then you can ask whatever you wish and it shall be done for you. Discipling was not just like, okay, let me have a couple of teachings to listen to and I'll let you know whether or not I agree with you. Oh, I'm going to check your stuff out. Well, good, do all of that. That's before you become a disciple. But after you've done that, you'll decide if you want to still be that person's disciple. Because people will still say, oh, I'm discipled directly by the Ruach. Where do you see that verse anywhere? Did you see Yeshua at the end of Matthew saying, go out and tell everybody they need to be discipled by the Ruach? Do you see that? Is that verse anywhere in anybody's Bible? No. He told them to go disciple people. and actually nations. So this is a people working with people, directing them to Messiah, directing them to the Father. Okay, so this is, I know we're reading John 15 here, but this John 15 is all about Jeremiah 5. They were not doing this. They were mocking and laughing at the prophets. They didn't want to listen to anybody. They became hard and unpliable. They were not being discipled anymore because they refused to be disciples. They were not, in Judah, remember, having access to Yahweh is like having access to Yeshua. They were not being discipled. The word was not staying in them. The heart wasn't right. This is why he says their heart is not there for all of this. Their heart's in the wrong place. So there's a matching up of what Yeshua was trying to tell the people in his day that was no different really than was going on in Jeremiah's day. They still have no heart. They're still foolish. He still calls them foolish and hypocrites. Nothing changed. That's the whole problem, is year after year, eon after eon. So nothing is changing. And the reason nothing is changing is because the heart is the problem.